Welcome back to my channel. Today is a very, very special day. We have Corey Guzman here. Corey is me and Corey met a while back and through the meetups I do here in South Florida. But Corey, we ended up working together. He became a mentee of a program that I was doing back then. And man, we always hit it off. He was always asking good questions in the meetups. He was always curious and just digging in. And it finally, we ended up figuring a plan that worked. And I come here today to, number one, congratulate Corey and share his story. I want him to share his story of how he found one of the first deals that he did. It ended up being over a $30,000 or $35,000 assignment fee or flip fee, a wholesale deal in Orlando, Florida, really just from cold calling, not knowing, from never doing a deal to doing a $35,000 deal in just a few months. Corey, man, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, right on. Excited to be here on the podcast, Flipping Miami.
Yeah, bro, it's good to have you on. We've been talking for a while, and I know you've closed some other deals in the midst of this because this deal took a while. But before we get into the deal, just share with people just tell them like who you are, how you started, what you did before, and kind of like what led you to get into real estate now.
Yeah, so I guess my original introduction into real estate was back in Atlanta, Georgia. I had left my corporate sales job of about 4.5 years with Verizon Wireless. So I'm like, dude, forget the corporate life. I'm going to be my own boss. I'm going to go into real estate. But I went the traditional route and became a licensed realtor. And I joined a brokerage out in Atlanta, Mark Spain Real Estate. And they're a huge brokerage, man. They're like, Real Trends top rated for volume. They done like 5,000 transactions in the single family space as far as listings back like in 2020, 21. And so I had proximity to them, but so I learned the traditional route. I had no idea what you could do as far as on the off market side of the business, on the investing side, the wholesaling side, et cetera. Everything I was doing was learning the traditional game. And so I got my exposure to real estate from that journey and done that for about 8 months. At the beginning of 2019. And then I had the opportunity to move to South Florida to come work for my mentor and the gentleman that just kind of, just changed my whole perspective after coming across his content, Grant Cardone. His office is out here in South Florida. So I left that opportunity, moved to South Florida, joined Grant Cardone's sales team as a sales and marketing manager, just continue to sharpen my sales sword, being in the boiler room with him, closing big deals with corporate company, the automotive dealerships, getting them on their sales training, entrepreneurs, selling them sales training. And that was kind of my start into real estate. But to finish the answer here, as far as learning the wholesale game, I kind of came across that, I want to say probably the back end of 2020. So after I left Grant Cardone's office, I pretty much became my outsourced high ticket closer. So I had the opportunity to work with a few different sales teams in different industries to kind of close deals for them. And I had the opportunity to work for a digital marketing agency based out of Utah. And their whole company was based off selling marketing and advertising to real estate investors across the country, where they would do like their social media, Facebook ads, et cetera. So that brought me back into real estate, just kind of me not even proactively looking for it. And I'm like, man, this is similar to what I was doing in the past, but this is a whole different, take on what you can do in real estate. And so that got me back into the game.
Yeah, that's amazing, bro. Good stuff, man. I remember you told me about the Grant Cardone. I didn't know you ended up doing sales outside of it and closing for other people. So I guess you got built by the sales bug once you got into the real estate brokerage in Atlanta. Then you started seeing what sales and real estate can do. And then you went to Grant Cardone, which seems like a good move. And then you started kind of, what was it that you like kind of got that tick that you're like, okay, I think I got to do this on my own. I think I got to get on this on my own. Like what happened there? What do you think drove you to that?
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Just the exposure of having conversations, because what that agency would do is, they were spending a ton of money on digital marketing to bring in investors for us to pitch them on, hey, this is how we can help you grow your business by you plugging in inbound and digital leads to your business. And so just from exposure of talking to real estate investors all across the country, it kind of opened my mind to what these guys were doing out there, and just started learning about wholesaling. And dude, when I came across a vehicle and heard about it, I had like goosebumps. I'm like, dude, this is like a blessing. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And man, I just got committed to mastering the craft and learning what it was, and just talking to other people in the game and helping them out in their businesses by getting started with digital marketing, and just seeing what was out there. And then around that same time, and just by me doing my research, I hopped on YouTube, and that's exactly how I found you. I think I Googled like wholesaling in Miami or wholesaling in Florida. And sure enough, you got a ton of content on there. You've been doing this for a long time. I came across your content. I'm like, man, let me study Raul. And, started going to your meetups, and that's kind of how we got into proximity.
Yeah, that's amazing, bro. That's amazing. So, I mean, a lot of gold nuggets there, like, just something that he figured out. But a lot of, you just took action. It's really simple. You went in there, even the action was YouTube and or the podcast or whatever, but then you followed up with that action with another action, which is, damn, this person's doing a live in-person meetup in my backyard. Like, let me go. So, a lot of you listening, just watching YouTube videos, it's a step in the right direction, but take that a little bit further. Go on meetup.com or see if that YouTuber does events, free events, paid events, whatever, and take another step. If this is what you want, right? And Corey seems like he determined after Grant Cardone thing, after working in the real estate office, when he found wholesale, he's like, okay, you learned what it was. He's like, this is something I want to do. Like, I'm committed to do this. Once you commit to that level, it's so hard to be stopped, which is why I think you've had the success you've had in such a short time. So, that's amazing. I mean, to commit like that, go from YouTube to Meetup to meet people, then to join it, then to get deals, and now you're probably meeting other people and going to other events and doing more deals. So it's just a nice spiral upwards there. So yeah, I want to take a little turn here, and I want to kind of talk a little bit about deals. Tell us a little bit of, like, from when you really started trying to actively get your first wholesale deal. What did you try? What have you tried? And then what led you to your first deal? Like, just give us a little bit of, like, kind of like the history of how you started, what you were trying, and then what it took to get that first one.
Yeah, no, 1000%, man. And, it definitely doesn't come easy, for sure. And when I really first started taking it serious, once again, was probably about the back end of 2020, with my affiliation with that digital marketing agency. And so I actually started by the route of paid marketing. So, with access to that marketing agency, I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Let me just have them run my ads for me. So I actually got started by running Facebook ads in South Florida, and kind of didn't really know what I was doing. I'm like, yeah, let me do South Florida. And it was actually like November and December when I ran the ad campaign. And sure enough, I got leads, but man, pretty much I wasn't able to convert any of the leads or the opportunity. So I ran a campaign for about 60 to 90 days. I got leads, I had conversations, had a few opportunities that were more kind of like on the retail side, but just, I didn't really get any traction. I wasn't able to convert any of the deals, still kind of trying to figure it out, how to have the right conversations with sellers, how to know what's the deal, how to run the numbers. And so didn't quite get discouraged, because, I would consistently go to your meetups and ask you questions, and you pretty much told me that you got to understand that, for one, South Florida is super competitive, and based on your KPIs and numbers, you just have to spend a very high amount to even expect to get a deal. I think, you had told me you got to spend anywhere from 5 to 7K in ad spend to expect to get one deal, and I had only spent like 2 to 3K in ad spend. And I was kind of hitting my head against the window, like, what's going on? But it was just not understanding the amount of money that you have to spend, the volume that you have to do, and the consistency that you need. And so, the thing about me when I first got started, I was obsessed with learning. I was halfway in, meaning that I was still doing it part-time, because full-time I was an outsourced closer for these agencies, and I was learning and doing wholesaling part-time. So honestly, if I look back, I just wasn't taking enough action. Yes, I paid for marketing, but it still didn't quite work out. You kind of dream scenario where paid for digital leads and got a deal right away. So that was kind of my first kind of dab into it, to answer that question. And then throughout the beginning of 2021 was, kind of dabbling, following up with leads and just kind of working what I had. I stopped the campaign, and then, continue to go to your meetups and other meetups and just still learn the game. And I don't quite remember when it was when I decided, I'm like, man, you know what? Let me just pull the trigger and sign up for your one-on-one coaching program. Because I felt, for one, the accountability, and to have a little bit more access to you and your blueprint and structure would just help me hold myself more accountable to taking more actions and really just commit to getting that first deal. And then sure enough, man, after, I just, paid for the program, got committed, got dialed into kind of your blueprint, just took more action. I got set up. And this time, instead of doing paid marketing, I'm like, let me just go back to what I know and what I learned at Cardone's office, and that's the power of the phone. So got set up with Mojo, got set up with data, pulled a list, skip trace the list, and just went in on cold calling, man. Just committed to cold calling and then taking action. And sure enough, within my first 30 days of taking action, I was able to get that first deal under contract in Orlando.
Amazing. Dude, there's so much in that story. Like, I noticed that about you right from the beginning. Like you were very committed to learning things that you didn't know, and you had kind of like no ego. You would ask questions, and didn't really matter what the question was, which is good. I mean, a lot of people might go to an event and like kind of be shy to raise their hand to ask, like, well, how do I find a seller? Don't be shy. That's why you're there, So, there's a lot of good qualities that you built up there. What do you think got you so committed to learning? Because we can get into the wholesale and exactly how you found the deal now, but like, if we back up one step, what I noticed and what you said was like, you mentioned the word committed a few times, and you also mentioned like learning. You mentioned, meetups. You mentioned the program. You mentioned, Facebook ads. Like, so like you had to learn a bunch of things. Meaning you've always been, or not always, but you're wired now to like really want to learn. What have you always been like that, or why are you always striving to learn something?
Yeah, man. You just have to master your craft in order to, excel and be the best and find success, right? And I definitely wasn't always like that. And, I really didn't discover self-development, reading and just kind of self-improvement, I would say until about 2018. And the one book that kind of changed everything for me, going back to Grant, was the 10X rule. Like when I read that book, it just kind of just woke me up from the matrix. I'm like, man, there's like, you got to think bigger and take bigger action. There's so much more that you could do out here. Because growing up, I always thought, man, if I could get a college degree and, have a 6-figure salary or job, man, I've made it in life, right? I'm firstborn generation of my family here in the States. My family's originally from Mexico. And like, they was in survival mode to get us here into the country, right? So it's like, just for them to open up the doors to be here, I kind of had just a natural kind of set plateau of 6 figures. I'm like, once you make it there, you've made it. But, once you get into self-development and really studying successful people, there's like no limit to what you can accomplish, right? And that's what really done it for me. Is after 2018, I've just been committed to self-development, reading, studying successful people, and getting around people like yourself that's doing big things in their industries. And it's just curiosity and wanting to learn and wanting to do better for yourself.
Amazing, man. Amazing. One last question before we go into the deal details, because you saying that kind of brought me something. What do you think would have happened, or what do you think is the cost of not being educated or of not learning, right? We talked about why do you learn, why are you committed to learn? But what is the cost of not learning? Like when I say that, what comes to mind?
The cost of your own happiness, of your own fulfillment, man. Yeah. Because that's what we're all striving for, is happiness, fulfillment, some type of achievement, striving towards a goal. And if you're not taking that seriously, you're never going to get there, man. So you might end up later in life in 60, 70, 80s and just filled with regret of, man, what could have happened if I, would have just took that, I was scared to do it. That what if, right? I never done it. I never bought that course. I never took action. Yeah. I never left the corporate job, whatever it may be. So it's like, you just got to invest into yourself first. Yeah. You got to help yourself, and then you can start helping others.
Yeah. I mean, once you wire your brain that way, and this is not a sale or anything. I don't even offer that coaching program. I'm not even offering a coaching program or mentoring program right now. Mm-hmm. But unless the students were already in, but so this is not a sale or anything. But when I see that, sometimes even like for my personal training, we're talking about stuff, I think of what's the cost of not having that education, or even a book. If you're going to buy a book, it's $20. I'm like, it's about leadership. Let's say it's like, what's the cost of not buying the $20 book, right? Then I learned less about leadership, meaning I could lead my team less. So if you want to get into wholesaling, you want to get your first deal, yeah, there might be a cost. Let's say it's to buy a program online for $100 or $500 or $1,000 or $5,000. What's the cost of not being educated and not knowing exactly what to do to get that first deal? So I would just think of that. Is it possible to do it completely by yourself? Of course. But what's the cost for you? So I think it's, kind of brought us to that point. But so now that you got educated, you did that. It was a little bit of a journey for you, which it is for everybody, by the way. I got friends that got their first deal in 9 months, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months. So there's really no right or wrong. It is what it is. It happens when it happens. There's people in my office that get it in 2 weeks. But then there's people that take 3 months. So don't feel bad. It's not your fault if you haven't gotten a deal yet. The point is that you do not stop and you keep learning. So what we could do is, Corey, lead us now to now take us to the nitty gritty of how you got this Orlando deal. What exact marketing did you do? How much do you think you spent? How many just give us the rundown from your point of view so that the listener can understand what it takes to get a deal nowadays.
Yeah, no, 100%. And just to kind of piggyback off what you were saying, man, the power of mentorship is just that simple. What you're describing, right, is to condense the learning curve and condense the time to get the results that you want, right? Like you said, if you want to do it by yourself, it may take you 6 to 8 months or a year to get your first deal, and hell, you might even give up because of frustration. But if you invest into mentorship and coaching and the right people, it's going to condense that learning curve and time frame for you to have success and keep you motivated. But so to backtrack to that first deal, I got the contract signed with the seller on April the 31st. I want to say I joined your program, I think late March or early April. So,
Yeah.
Just having that commitment, I took a lot of action as far as picking up the phone to start cold calling, which is something that I hadn't done up to that point. And so to answer your question, I use Pull the List online, stacked list that I made off of PropStream, to kind of have those high indicators of distress, to kind of find those low hanging fruits and have the opportunity to speak to somebody that might be motivated. So houses built before 1990, vacant, absentee owner, the median price of less than 300,000 in Orlando. I'm trying to think of what else, but I think those were pretty much the main parameters. So pulled that list in Orange County and Orlando, skip trace the list, loaded it up into my Mojo and just started cold calling everybody. And
And just so people get an idea, he picked that in Orlando. I don't know why you picked it. It was a great choice. But you picked Orlando, but Corey lives in Miami or in South Florida. So that's 4-hour drive. Therefore, it's not even in your own backyard. You did it literally virtually.
Yeah. And I guess it somewhat had to do with my experience in South Florida that I had with the paid marketing. I realized how competitive the market is. Doesn't mean you can't get deals here, but I was just a little bit smarter the second time around. Orange County is still super competitive, but I'm like, let me just try a new market. Let me do this virtually, right? And sure enough, it ended up working. But I don't know the exact time frame, but definitely within 30 days, I was able to finally start having good conversations. And what's crazy is how I came across this opportunity is that when I cold call, I make sure that I drop a voicemail on everybody that I'm cold calling, anybody that doesn't answer, to at least do a touch and have them have the opportunity to get the message and call me back. And sure enough, this lady, she called me back off the voicemail a few days later, and I didn't answer her phone call. She left me a voicemail, and I got the message, and she definitely sounded like a motivated seller. So I dropped everything and called her back and had a conversation. And, the beautiful thing about this is that it wasn't any crazy skill set that I had. It wasn't one magic line that I said. It was literally just by taking action and catching the seller at the right time. Yeah. Because the property's been vacant probably for 5 years. She's probably has gotten a ton of phone calls, direct mail, et cetera. But I caught her at the right time because she had just gotten a letter in the mail from the city of Orlando saying, hey, you got 3 code violations for your roof, the exterior, the back sunroom, and if you don't repair this, we're going to start finding you $5,000 a day or something crazy. So by her receiving that letter, she now became a super motivated seller because she's like, yeah, I can't afford this. I live in New York. This was my brother's property that passed away. The rest of the family is in Thailand. So I had a whole lot of distress in it that we'll get into, but I just caught her at the right time and had a quality conversation. and locked up the deal within about 2 or 3 phone calls. So I felt like I didn't have to put in a lot of work, but somewhat of a laydown because she was ready to go. But, I still had to be ready for the opportunity, walk her through the process and give her the pitch and negotiate the numbers.
Preparation loves luck. Luck loves preparation. So luck comes to those people who are in the market. Luck comes to those people who are prepared and are working. So I love that, man. I love that. That's great. So basically, to back up and kind of recap in a way. So Corey, basically, he got a list from PropStream. He skip traced it. Probably, I don't know if he did it through PropStream or through another website, but there's a lot of skip tracing websites out there, which means just getting the phone numbers. Then Corey put that list of phone numbers and properties into Mojo Dialer, which is mojosells.com. There's a lot of other dialers, but that's the one we use. I don't know if you're still using it, but it's the one we use. And then just starts calling. Literally just click start, follow the instructions, and just start calling and follow a script, which I give my script for free on my website. But you just follow a script and you just talk to people and see what they're looking to do. Talk to them about their house. Why are they looking to sell it? What are the conditions of the property? And eventually you're going to get somebody that's interested in listening, hearing you out. And then at that point is where you have to follow the script and deliver a nice offer to the seller. So Corey Corey, after about a month of calling, or a little bit less than a month, got this lady. She was motivated. She just got the violations. Corey was there at the right place, right time. And he ended up getting the deal under contract. We could talk a little bit of numbers here. We don't have to throw out the address, but what was the contract price that you got it at?
Yeah, we kind of went back and forth on the negotiations, and we ended up locking it up at $150,000.
What did she want originally, or the seller want originally?
Man, I think maybe she was around 180, I believe. Okay. I actually anchored a little bit lower at 130.
Nice.
But we ended up coming to terms at 150. ARV was about, at that time, because the market's gone up, ARV was probably about 280-ish, 270, 280. So, 150 was definitely a deal.
Amazing. So there you see. So Corey, what anchor means is it's a term we use in sales, and how we show our people how to do is just you start with a low anchor. It doesn't necessarily mean it's your offer. A price anchor, the way the mind works is the first number is the one that gets anchored in your mind. So if you're like, look, I see things selling around 130, pause. It's not really my offer, but what are the numbers you thought of? Well, so now 130 is like the baseline, even though your real offer would have been 140, 150. So it was amazing. So Corey got that thing signed. I remember he sent me on Slack. I think I was in a meeting or something. As soon as I got out, I responded, and I think he already got it, or you got it like right after, something like that, which was amazing. So he got the contract, and then what happens next? So you got the offer signed with the seller on the DocuSign, right? Use DocuSign?
Yeah, use DocuSign, and she's a little bit older lady. I don't know exactly how old she is, but she's in New York. I'm definitely not technology savvy. Wrote up the paperwork, and once again, the power of having a coach and a mentor is that this is my first off-market deal, so I used your contract template, plugged in the details of it, send it to her via DocuSign. But I had to walk her through everything and kind of instruct her. I had to go out of my way and set up a Zoom meeting for me and her, so I could kind of coach her through being able to guide herself through DocuSign. And we got the paperwork signed, huge celebration. And once again, going back to the resources is that, being in your program, I was able to leverage your contract, able to leverage your recommended title company, and you plugged me right in, set up a group email with everybody at the title company, and we was off to the races, sent them the contract, and, just let them kind of, take over from there. And it's crazy looking back at it, right? Because, she had so much urgency to sell. She's like, yeah, I mean, how soon can you close? Can we close this like in 7 days? I'm like, yeah, no problem. As soon as our title company's running the paperwork, we should be able to close. So I had on the original agreement only like a 7-day inspection period, close on or before 30 days. And in my head, I'm like, yes, this is going to be done, smooth, easy transaction. And, once we got it locked in, with the JV, your role was to help me use the power of your cash buyers list and bring in a cash buyer. And I think you was able to do that pretty quickly within about a week.
Yeah.
to bring somebody in. So, but yeah, so that's kind of how it unfolded. So, once we got the commitment from her, contract signed, we opened up escrow. Only I put $100 down as earnest money deposit. So we was off to the races. But sure enough, man, the story unfolded a little bit
Yeah.
differently, right? It wasn't quite
Yeah.
too easy to close.
So we can fast forward that a little, but I'll run into the rundown. I mean, so overall, Corey got it signed. Then once you get a contract signed, it has to go through a title company. So, when you're new and you've never done a deal before, that's the next question. Where does this go? So we have a title company we use. So we plug them in. And a lot of people have that question is, oh, but do you need a deposit? It's like, yeah, but oftentimes the deposit's like $100, $200, $300 we put in our contract. And some people don't believe it and then never do a deal. Some people believe it and use it. Some people believe it but still put 2,000. Who knows why? But it just shows you. And by the way, Orlando, back in when you got it, and even Orlando today, is a red hot market. I mean, just Google top markets in Florida or top markets in the US. Orlando comes out on every single article. So this is like Corey from Miami, first deal, cold calling, gets this deal. Okay, it's just I say this and we're on here for inspiration. Okay, so to fast forward a little bit, and then we'll go towards the end. We found a buyer. And then we assigned the contract for, I think it was 40,000 flat at that point. I remember
190. Yeah, 190. Yep.
So yeah, Corey got it signed at 150. Our buyer signed at 190. So that's $40,000 profit, and which is great. Then we had some title issues. Let's just call it. We had some title issues, some probate issues and stuff. And Corey pretty much navigated through that. We could give them we don't have to give them the full summary because there's so much to unpack there, but just give them just let us know from the title issues, how are you able to kind of not get demotivated and push through, be able to speak to the seller frequently and speak to the attorneys and this is your first deal, right? So at this point, it's still your first deal. So how are you able to figure your way through? Because I helped you, but really you did all the work. I mean, I just guided you. I said, call this person, say this, say that, but overall you did 90% of it. So if not more. So how are you able to put yourself through there and navigate through these waters?
Yeah, no, great question, man. And really, we got to look at ourselves as really what we're doing is we're true problem solvers as wholesalers, because we're playing our role in the middle. We're being a true problem solver to the distressed seller, and we're a problem solver to the end buyer. And so our role is to literally solve problems. And what I've learned from this transaction is literally the more problems you solve, the more that you get paid. And once again, yes, you may come across some smooth transactions that may close in less than 30 days, but this one, it took about 9 months to close the escrow on it. And literally, I knew nothing about probate and a lot of the other stuff that I had to learn throughout this transaction, because one big takeaway that I've learned is that this is, as a wholesaler, you have the deal under contract. We control the contract, right? And if we want it's our job to see it to the finish line. Because one thing that I've learned is that, working with title companies, title officers, attorneys, accountants, not saying that all of them are probably like this, but I feel like they have a different mindset of less urgency, right? Oh, it's on the desk. We'll get to it when we get to it. I have other clients. So I had to proactively literally follow up with everybody involved countless times. I've done hundreds of calls with the seller, hundreds of follow-ups, a lot of conversations, plenty of calls to the title, probate attorneys, accountants. But yeah, long story short, I just had to take a very proactive approach, because honestly, this deal could have fell apart so many different times throughout this journey. So, long story short, I got the property under contract, but the proper probate process hadn't been completed because on title, it was the brother of the seller. And after he passed away in October of 2020, they never completed the probate process. So we had to find somebody that could do that. We went through 2 different probate attorneys before we found one that could actually commit to doing it. And there was just a lot of logistics, because there's a lot of all of the family members except the sister were in Thailand. So I had to deal with that logistic issue. And it's just a lot of stuff going on. And then dealing with the code violations. This is how committed I was to the deal, right? I even drove and went in person for the court hearing in Orange County. to speak to the judge to say, hey, can you please delay these code violations for another 3 to 6 months? I'm the buyer, but I can't commit to repairing the property until I actually own it from that point of view. And sure enough, they definitely wasn't having it. So then at one point in time, the property did start accumulating those daily fines, but I went out of my way to try to do what I could to delay those to help out the deal for everybody. So we had to work ourselves through probate, code violations, international family members. And then at the very end, we had so many, hurdles to overcome. We found out that because it was a non-US citizen selling the property, because the ex-wife was still on title as well. And she lives in Thailand. So we had to do what's called the FERPTA process. So I had to learn about that. Yeah. I had to go out of my way to find somebody that could do that. We went through that. And just so many things that I had to be proactive about to make sure that everybody involved was actually doing their job to help expedite the process throughout the journey.
Yeah, no, yeah. And that's a very short summary for you listening. I mean, this was months and months and months of process that Corey was just, something that is not taught in school. And my younger sister's in college, and I went to college, and it's fine. At college is great, but something that they don't teach in college is follow-up. Okay. Like how important it is. People don't owe you shit. Even if you pay them to do something, they don't owe you shit. It's just the way it works, the way the world works. The sooner you can accept that and you grab the bull by the horn, the sooner that you can achieve and make more money and do greater things for yourself and your families. But what I mean by that is, just because we hired an attorney to fix the title, let's say, doesn't mean that he's going to do it right away. It means that you have to follow up. You have to be the one. Just because we get an attorney, a CPA to fix the FERPTA issue, doesn't mean he's going to do it tomorrow. Doesn't mean he's going to send you the paperwork very quickly. You have to follow up like crazy with vendors, providers, sellers, buyers. It's just the way it is. If you can accept that, it's amazing. And I think this was a learning lesson for you. Definitely a learning lesson for me. There's some things I had never seen. That FERPTA thing I had never come across, or maybe I have, but I just haven't been involved so much. So it was a very good learning lesson. So it was months in the making, but we ended up selling it. What was the total profit that we ended up making there?
Oh yeah, and then also it ended up being that we couldn't do the simple assignment of of contract, so we actually had to do a double close when it was all said and done. So due to the fees on the double close, we ended up. Oh, and due to the fact that I felt like you had a great relationship with this cash buyer because of the patience of this guy to wait 9 months. And I think he had put like $7,000 non-refundable EMD. So, I mean, this guy, had the patience of a doctor, right? But we had to do a double closing, and we actually came down because of the fact that he was going to buy the property with the code violation of like 30,000. So he was taking that on. So we came down to 185 for his purchase price. So it ended up being a 35K assignment fee. But then after doing a double close, so actually it was an A to B and then a B to C double close. We still ended up netting about 31K when it was all said and done. So it was a 35K spread with the closing fees, took home about 31-ish.
Yeah. So still great $31,000 deals. I mean, there's still so many people in the US that's what they make in a year, or making 6 months, and to do it in one deal. I know this one took a long time, but not all of them are like that. But I just wanted to bring you on here to inspire people. I mean, like Cory and myself, I started with nothing, like with little. I didn't know I wasn't birthed from my mom knowing how to flip houses. Okay, this is something that you learn, you educate yourself, and it's just amazing, right? And so since you started this deal, and now, how many deals have you completed?
So I've done a total of 4 deals now. So in between that one that took so long to close, I've done 3 other deals. So started gaining some consistency, man. So done 3 other deals in between that time frame.
There you go. So you got 4 deals in 9 months. How long did it take you to get the first one under contract? Or how long did it take you to close the first one, like get money in the bank?
I ended up doing a deal in Pensacola that I was actually surprisingly kind of smooth. That one actually did close within 30 days. It definitely wasn't super smooth because it was an out-of-state owner that was motivated to sell it. He owns a few properties. He lives in Hawaii. He's got a lot of kind of He's kind of like the slumlord type of person that hasn't even seen the properties, or distressed, need work, and just wanted to unload a few of them. Pensacola property, it wasn't vacant. He actually had tenants in there that moved in but never even paid any rent. They was going to repair the house. They worked out some kind of weird agreement, basically troubled tenants. Property needed a lot of work. So ended up making about 10K on that one. And so luckily I found a cash buyer for that one that was willing to take on the property with the months to months, basically squatters or tenants in there. And that was another one that I did out in Pensacola, and that one closed within like 30 days. So
there you go, man. So far within your first 12 months, 4 deals, thousands and thousands of profits. Sounds like a huge accomplishment. So congrats again, man. Corey, how can the person listening, if they want to connect with you, maybe ask you something or follow you, kind of follow your journey, how can they connect with you, man?
Yeah, 1000%, man. I'm still just getting started. I'm still figuring it out. And you just got to take the momentum and continue to go all in. And so just to kind of finalize my story, man, I was still doing the high ticket sales up until the end of 2021. But, with some of the success that I've been having here recently, with a little bit more consistency, about a deal per month. So I'm like, you know what, let me just cut the cord, man. Let me go back all in. Let me go all in into wholesaling full time. So as of January, I'm 100% committed, all in, doing nothing else but wholesaling. So I'm excited for 2022 and ready to blow it up, man, for sure. Following to your footsteps. And as far as connecting with me, you can find me on IG, the Corey Guzman.
The Corey Guzman, cool. Yeah, we'll put this on the show notes at the Corey Guzman, and you'll probably find them in my free meetups that I do in South Florida once a month. So if you want to meet him in person and you're in South Florida, come check us out there. But man, I'm so excited to see where you go in your journey. I know we talk pretty often, but we'll definitely have you on here and then maybe like 6 months, and just to see where you're at, and keep providing value to the listener. And yeah, I'm excited to see you on your journey, bro.
I appreciate it, bro. It means a lot to me. Thank you.
So thank you guys for watching this. If you like what you saw, please reach out to Corey, man, at the Corey Guzman on Instagram. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to the podcast, if you write a nice review, that helps the algorithm greatly. So thank you guys again for watching, listening, and we'll see you on the next one.